Okay, everyone, I just want to welcome you all to my podcast called Cambodian Youth Talks in English. My name is Vatana and I am the host. And we've got a topic this morning. Well, actually, it's PM and in the US right now. And joining me is an awesome guest. And I'm so happy. And it's a privilege to be able to talk to them and using the English as my second language. And I'm hoping I'm being understood and trying to communicate clearly. And yes, coming up with the topic, it's seeking truth together, engaging opposite views with care and respect. Okay, and I'm joining with this awesome guest speakers, Mr. Brad from California, and they're both from the state in the state of California. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Brad works in electrical company with the safety management, and he's an awesome man and love America. And I'm going to have them share a little bit about themselves. And actually, this is our second podcast that we're doing. We are going through some sort of the world turbulence, and of course. This is the time when you probably see a lot of online arguments with opposite points of view, political point of views, and let's just value humanity. Let's just value love. Let's just value the deep understanding, and let's learn how to tolerate the different in some ways. And uh, I am hoping that our audience tonight or this morning, well, not this morning because we're going to podcast this and learn something, open the gate of learning and receiving from the opposite sides. I mean, points of view, right? And Bong Prakan, Cambodian American, am I,
Yeah.
or pure American?
No.
ចេះនិយាយ
It
ខ្
was
មែរបងចេះនិយាយខ្មែរបាទភ្លេចជំរាបសួរបងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នា
before.
Yeah, okay, Bong Prakan pursuing her master degree in education, and she's on her way to become a college professor, working hard. And yes, and this is something that the next generation gotta hear, gotta listen, working hard. And okay, everyone, I'm gonna have them introduce themselves, and let's do the lady first. So Bong, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Prakan. I am currently living in Southern California, San Diego to be specific. I am working on my master's in Asian American literature. That's kind of something that I've been passionate about. I hope to maybe even work on my PhD with that. I feel like there needs to be a bigger literature category in the colleges. So yeah, so that's what I'm striving for now, just my master's, but I intend to get my PhD.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you, Bong. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Brad.
Oh, so my name is Brad, like Brad Pitt. I had the chance to visit Cambodia in 2008, so it's been a while now. Lots has changed in the world, but I really enjoyed my time there. I actually was out of work when I visited Cambodia and got to interact with and see Cambodia's power system, and came back and ended up getting a job at our power company.
Mm-hmm.
So by way of training, I did degrees in political science as well as business administration and public policy and politics. And then using those in the safety, because you have a lot of regulatory issues in safety, just like you have in finance. And so I've worked both finance and safety and making sure we're in compliance with regulations and things at the power company, but also taking care of customers.
Thank you very much, Brad, for sharing. Yep. I'm always impressed and fascinated by the cutting edge technology, as well as, all of the power that we have. And whenever I see this, I feel like, wow, somebody really pioneering. I mean, really the big contributions to the world, with the powers. But more importantly, is not just the consumption, but the safety aspect that, we need to be very careful whenever we touch. And by the way, just make a little bit of a bracket here. I was getting this, what do you call it, like a cutting vegetables thing, like a motos, and then I plugged it, and then there is something black. I did not really identify what it is. So when I plugged it and then I unplugged it, but the problem is I do not know the law in what you call it, law of electricity. I did not realize that this black box thing hold the power. But I thought I was safe already. I already unplugged it, and then when I touched the black thing, I got shocked. But it was like, you know. But anyway, I'm still alive. So it's good to be safe, right? To know what you're doing with what
Yes.
you're doing. So, yeah. Yep. Okay, well, everyone, the topic this morning and tonight, sorry, in the state is nighttime PM, and in Cambodia it's morning time. And we are seeking the truth, engaging, opposite views with care and respect. And again, I'm joining by Brad Baumeyers and Bong Prakanso. Both of them are from the state Californias, and we do understand that we live, with the world with different cultures, different point of views, and we want to anchor, the love and deep understanding, and as human being. And there are things we disagree, but how do we listen to each other, and how do we, non-violently listen and talk? Well, after the introductions, and we wanted to come into the first questions for our guest speakers, Bong Prakan So and Mr. Brad Mayers. I just want to kind of look through the first questions. While I am going through the questions related to our topic this morning, I wanted our guests to think of the latest events that disturb them the most and the latest event that they enjoy the most. I don't know what they are, so you may think of something. And okay, all right, I've got a question now. So who want to go first about what do you enjoy with your current events in life the most? I mean, you can either share only something positive, something you enjoy the most.
Do you want to go first, Brad?
Sure.
I can. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that that we did, what was it? Today's Tuesday, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things we did on Sunday is our church had its 35th year anniversary.
Okay.
And so that's, it was very small when I started, about 300 people, and now there are thousands. But, part of that is bittersweet because our senior pastor is now retired. His son has stepped into the role as our senior pastor.
Yep.
But they have done quite a job in terms of meeting people's needs as as people came to the church, because it's not like we advertised.
Yep.
We prayed and people showed up, and
Mm-hmm.
they showed up with their needs. And so a lot of the things that had to be built in order to take care of those people, that was, that's kind of the legacy of where we're at today.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you. Next, Bong Prakan, it's your turn.
Positive events. Let's see. Positive events.
Something.
Yeah.
Something you accomplished.
Well, the world is still standing.
Mm-hmm.
That is positive. The world is still standing. Let's see. We all still have communication.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's important. I mean, I know there's a lot of contention, I guess, in the world right now, but not just in America, but everywhere. And I think it's important that we do still have communication, or the ability to communicate and share, which is, I think, the most important thing, because without it, we would be blind to what's happening in the world. So, I mean, good or bad, I think that the fact that we're all able to still communicate from all over the world is very important. Okay. And that's not taken away,
Great. Thanks, Bo. Thank you. Yep. I thank you, everyone. Again, it's my privilege to be able to host this program. Listening to opposite points of view, which is coming regarding our cultures and faith and experience in life, and of course our worldview is shaped by those things, right? Faith, culture, and experience in life. And to relate to our topic, seeking the truth, engaging opposite points of view, I like to throw these questions to each of you. What does the word truth mean to you personally? And how do you usually seek it? And of course, we are able to see things on media, social media, TV. Some we claim's true, some it may not be true. And what it really disturbing is like whatever come into our heart and trigger anger and hatred. Something that doesn't really seem to be peace at all, to be honest with you. Something that we allow to come into it, and then we use our brain to process, and then we begin something. I don't know how to explain this, but that's really something inside our heart, and it looks like something that is burning, So anyway, again, the question is, what does the truth mean to you personally, and how do you seek it? Any of you may say, I want to answer, or I don't want to answer, up to you.
Okay,
Yep.
ready?
Yeah. Okay. Did you everyone hear the questions? Correct. What does the truth mean to you personally, and how do you seek it? All right. And again, thank you. So whoever wants to share.
I can go.
Okay.
Well, truth is subjective, obviously, because depending on what the subject is about, and one truth is different from another person's truth, because it's it comes back to our values, our virtues, our morals, so it's very subjective. Good or bad, it's subjective. We always want the truth, we want facts, but a lot of times facts come with details that we may or may not agree with, unfortunately. And part of the problem is that sometimes the facts don't align with what you believe in, depending on what that is. And I think that's where the friction comes, and people have a hard time with the truth, with finding the truth, because it's so subjective.
All right. Thanks, Bong. Subjective. I'm learning subjective. Yep. English word. That's also help our young students learning English to find out the word subjective. Thanks. All right, Brad, yours is floor. The floor is yours, not the yours is floor. You see?
Okay. So when you ask that question, I think about John 18:38.
Okay.
Where Jesus is talking to Pontius Pilate, and this is the section 37 to 38 where Pilate said to Jesus, "Are you the king then?" And Jesus answered, "You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." And then Pilate says to him, "What is truth?" And walks away. And now when pastors teach on that passage, they talk about the influence of Greek philosophy on the Roman Empire. And that question is really him like quoting a Greek philosopher who they would say, "What is truth?" And philosophically, how you get in there. But then Pilate immediately goes back out to the crowd and says, "I find no fault in him at all." And so it was kind of I find it interesting that's in the Bible like that, because you do have that history in the Western Greek tradition of trying to think about what truth is and not do any practical work, but just be philosophical and sit around and discuss it. But then you have that practical reality. And so, in the Bible, they use a lot of agricultural examples that you reap what you sow, you plant and you harvest, and you have to wait and be patient. And I feel like Jesus used those agricultural examples a lot because it's something that everybody knew to be true, right? And it's verifiable. You can go do it. You can go plant things and they'll grow. If you don't water them, they will die. Well, not in Cambodia where it rains a lot. Where we live, there's very little rain. And so if you don't water them, everything will die. And so things like that, those are very, very physical, concrete, verifiable, as opposed to the philosophical question of what is truth. And then in the scientific tradition, the focus is on, is it verifiable and repeatable? So you create a hypothesis, X is true, And then how do you measure that and how do you test it? And other people should be able to follow everything you did and get the same result. And so like the moon, think about how the Lunar New Year works, right? All over Asia, they use the Lunar New Year. Thousands of years ago, they figured out the moon is on a schedule, and it does that same schedule all the time. And all over the world, people figure that out. And so the regular schedule of the moon, that's true, and everybody in every culture knows it's true because they've all, like, someone sat around and watched the moon every day and started keeping track, and so they realized, okay, this is how the moon works, and it's like that all the time, and it doesn't matter where you are on the planet, it's true. And we're having a super moon right now because the moon is closer, and so it just happens to be something I was thinking about. But then there's other philosophical things that are more abstract, and that's where I think a lot of the conflict comes from.
Okay. Well, thanks, Brad, and thanks, Bong Prakan. As an English learner, I like to learn terms. I cannot remember the technical term for learning word in deep insight. I cannot remember the technical term for that. But I sometimes eager to learn words. For example, the word fact and the word truth. And to me, my understanding about the term is like what you can see it and what you can accept. If I think about a fact, it's, to me personally, I think it's more of something really people want to see with evidence. It's something we can see visually, like something on the surface. But sometimes that doesn't really reflect the truth, which is you may not see the truth, but maybe there's something that you have to accept it, You can disagree, and it's okay. The topic tonight is more of the opposite points of view, This is what I said, and people laugh. When we take a group of picture, we have a conference, we have an event, we're all happy standing like 100 people standing and take a picture. And then I approached someone, and then I spoke in English, and I said, hey, you want to see the difference between a fact and a truth? He said, yeah, tell me, what do you think? I said, the fact is everybody smile and take a picture and everybody want to be in the photo. And you know what the truth is? Nobody's going to look at that photo at all after they're taking the picture. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just...
Fact, or you can verify facts where truth,
it's subjective, like you said.
It encompasses more. You all have to believe. It's kind of like you have to believe that what is said is agreed by everybody, right? Where facts, it's like proven. The moon comes in, the moon goes away, the moon comes up. It's fact, right? Everybody agrees, and that's what makes it a fact. So the truth, not so black and white, but it's like everybody has to agree on that information. Okay. So that's where it's...
Yeah. So my audience and among all my guest speakers, and as a believer, I believe in one statement, all right? I believe that the truth shall set us free. And I don't know what truth that you are having. If you believers, you know what the truth I'm talking about. But yes, Bong Prakan was saying the truth is subjective. It depends on a personal point of view and things. But to me personally, I believe that the pure truth will set people free. To me, that's to me, okay? Whether you are Christians, whether you are not, on things on media, we all want to seek the truth, right? People can lie about things, people can say the truth, people can lie, and that's what we see on the world. My father wasn't happy when I was wanting to come to church because he said it's a foreign religion. And back in the 1990s, I was on a street gang, and I can show you all my scars here. Anytime I share about testimony, I never forget about this. I could have been dead. I was stabbed to death, and it was trying to poke on my heart. This is my opponent was trying to kill me, but I used it to defend myself. That lots of blood, lots of fighting, but 2005, 20 years ago, that's when I shifted my course and coming to Christian church, and then meet with loving people, and they care, they love, respect, and I understand what aggressive means. I understand what violence. This is what I used to be surrounded by, So when I see people, you don't have to tell me if this is violent or this is not violent. I grew up with it, to be honest with you. I grew up with this thing on everybody, but this is my story and how the truth that I believe changed my whole life,
Well, I can go back to the misconception. I don't think, you were.
But I haven't. Sorry, Bon, to interrupt. Actually, we have not put a question. Let me just throw the questions on two of you now. So, because we cut, so our audience may cannot catch up. So my question for our guest, Mr. Brad Baumeyers and Bong Prakan. So, the question is, what are the different beliefs that they have, and they have, opposite political points of view, and what are the misunderstandings of people, or I call it the biggest misconception people may have on your side, or what you believe. All right, I'm hoping the question is being understood. Is that okay now? Okay.
I just really quick to touch on, we were mentioning, the misconception of Christianity, among the Cambodian Buddhists or whatnot. I don't think that it's, I forget what the term you use, because I said it was not misunderstanding. I think it's just kind of maybe the lack of knowledge. And so now, it's more of like well, that's not our religion and you're going against it, so now it's bad on you, more than misunderstanding. It's lack of knowledge. But I would like to continue with the the right and the left and the misconceptions. Is that, one thing that I just actually was listening to right before we came on is about abortion, and the idea that Democrats, far, not far, middle, whatever, the idea that we're okay with killing a baby at full term. It's nuts. It's kind of like, yes, we're carrying a baby as a woman. If I've carried the baby full term, I've picked out names, I've dreamed, I've decorated a nursery, I've got it all, figured out. Like, I'm looking forward to it. And then one day I wake up at 9 months pregnant. I don't want this baby. I'm going to kill it. That's crazy. Because, the MAGA Trump are saying that that's what we're about. And because we say we're pro-choice, they think we want to terminate babies nilly-willy. And as a woman, that is furthest from the truth. Nobody wants to terminate anything unless, it's caused death to the mother, or maybe even rape, incest, whatever the reasons are. But even then, there are women who are raped who don't even want to get rid of that baby. And that's being a rape victim, and even by incest, like uncles and, cousins and whoever, they still, it's like something is growing in you. And regardless of your political stance, the idea that because you're a Democrat, that you're ready just to have an abortion is nuts. And it's so infuriating. Just because I'm okay with this other person deciding their own fate, their own future, because I'm okay for you to have a choice, doesn't mean I'm ready to have an abortion at one day or or full term. It's not the case. We just want to give people the right to do what they need to do for themselves and for their families, right? It's not about we're okay with it. And that's the part that just annoys me to no end. No woman, regardless of what aisle you're on, wants to get rid of a baby. Never.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Emotional attachment, I hear that. And truly speaking, I have watched debates on abortion, and I understand that this is one of the controversial topics happening right now in the US. Some claim that their right taken away. Some say you're killing the baby, but whenever the conception starting point, and I totally get that,
Right or wrong, it's about misconception.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Misconception. I'm not saying it's right one way or another either. Okay. I'm just saying the idea to say that we as Democrats just want to kill babies, that's not fair. Because as a woman, before political affiliation, no woman wants to do that. But if the situation arises where we have to, and even when we have to, we think about it, we cry and cry and cry and think about it. It is never, ever an easy decision. Okay. I mean, maybe someone who maybe mentally is challenged, or, aside from those things, no woman, like I said, regardless of the aisle, goes to that. The first thing they're thinking of is never an abortion. Okay. Never.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to have Mr. Brad to respond or have anything to say about misconception or misunderstanding things from his side. Um, but I think it's also the in a way of perceiving things. Right now, I'm not here to say what is right, what is wrong. Okay, I'm just using the term killing and the term of free choices, and something we can consider things doing without our own conscience, or something we have the strong values in things of what we are doing. I don't know whether I articulate things on this, but
I think you're articulating fine, but why would you choose the word killing instead of aborting?
yes, okay, guys. Right now we're coming to something more controversial about why do we use abort and the word, the term abort, like something I'm not gonna let that happen, so I abort it. Like even on a jet, you say abort something, but in a way of a human being, I don't know what
Stop.
that. Yes.
Well, because it's to stop the action, right? Where I feel like it's more palatable. And when you use words like killing, and that's where you incite those bad things, right? Now people are getting angry because now you're saying, oh, you're killing a baby. We're not trying to kill a baby. We're aborting the situation,
Okay.
right?
Let's just take a size on how we do it. Okay. But I'm sure there's something that we can hear something from Brad also. Probably it more deeper why. I think probably a lot of wisdom we get when we ask a lot of why question. Mr. Brad, the floor is yours.
Okay, so you picked the hard topic. We'll go right there. Um,
I'm
um,
sorry.
when I was in college, I had dinner with Gloria Allred and Norma McCorvey, who was Jane Roe in Roe v. Wade. It was right before Norma McCorvey became a Christian, and so and the dinner was very interesting because Gloria Allred thought everybody there was a supporter of hers. She didn't realize that two of us were like conservative Christians. So she spoke very freely, and she spoke very badly about Christians at the dinner, so badly that Norma McCorvey got up and left dinner. She was so upset by the way she was talking, and the other Christian guy who was there at the dinner had to go talk to her to calm her back down so she could do the speech afterwards to the university. She really didn't like the negative ways that people were being perceived, and people were very free with it because they didn't realize who was in the room. So it was very interesting. Gloria Allred is one of the premier lawyers who's argued many of these abortion cases in the United States. And then if you look up Norma McCorvey, look up her story, within a couple of years after that, she became a Christian and left that whole lifestyle. And part of it was that some Christians who were near her treated her kindly. It was in this kind of office complex, and she expected them to be very harsh with her, but they treated her with kindness, and that got her curiosity up, and she ended up becoming a Christian later on, ended up working with Operation Rescue, a pro-life organization, kind of for the rest of her life there. But it wasn't lost on me that it was the way that people were being treated at that dinner that really were the point, and the fact that Norma was treated much better by people than what we saw at the dinner really affected the choices she was making. Now, the other thing about abortion is I think that it really was a challenge to the church. So what do you do with a girl who's in a situation where she is pregnant and doesn't feel she can do it alone? And I think the American church had to go through some hard thinking on that, because if you just shame people, then of course people feel like they need to get out of the situation. So at churches like mine, we have this whole set of ministries designed to come around someone who's in that situation, so that they have support, so that they have, financial support. They have older women who will walk with them through the situation. And I don't think that if that situation hadn't occurred in the United States, I think it was necessary to get the church to step up and to think about the women in that situation. And so it was kind of a challenge. And of course, you may be aware that recently that it wasn't even a law; it was a judicial imposition, and it's been reversed now. So now it's all based on politics, and then so it's very different now, and depending on what state, because people vote differently.
Yep.
And part of it is that a lot of judges felt that you're trying to make judges force this on the half the country who doesn't agree. Our Chief Justice, our Supreme Court really doesn't like that, and he's been there 20 years now, and he really doesn't like people going to the court to force the other half of the country to do what we want. And so he's always trying to create unanimous opinions so that people don't try to use the courts to force it, because he doesn't believe that coercion is right, and that he pushes it back to the elected branches. So the president, the Congress, you guys need to solve this. You shouldn't be running to court to solve it. And so that's an interesting way of handling those kind of disagreements. We also have a different legal tradition. This is something I did do in graduate school. We have published written legal opinions from our Supreme Court, and the winning side and the losing side both publish an opinion. So you can read it, and so you can go back 200 years, and you can read the people who lost and what they believed. And a lot of those well-written dissents, that's what people believe now. And like one of the examples was the Japanese internship during World War II, right? Where people were very scared. They're very scared, and one of the problems they had is if you see ethnic strife all over the world. So if you have a small Japanese population that everyone is angry at, they were afraid that people would take matters into their own hands. And you've seen that happen all over the world, where one ethnic group wipes out another ethnic group because they're mad or scared, right? So part of that Japanese internment decision, which in World War I, they interned Germans too, right? So my family's German, and so we came after World War I. So my family thought they were going to get interned during World War II, right? But the Japanese internment, there was a dissent. The Supreme Court said they could do it, but there was a blistering dissent written by the only Republican guy on the court that absolutely you should not be doing this to American citizens. Now today, everybody agrees with that guy, but he lost the case, but he wrote it so well that now everyone pretty much accepts that no, he was right. And so that written legal tradition really helps shape that conversation. Sometimes it's always been contentious throughout our history, but we keep copies. So you can go look it up right now. You can look it up in Cambodia and look at these decisions. They're on the webpage, and we publish our mistakes. And publishing our mistakes kind of helps us own it.
Yep.
And so you can read the decisions on abortion, and a lot of legal scholars said even the original Roe versus Wade was a poorly written decision. They would also, other groups will say that Dobbs is a poorly written decision. But you can read them both. They're both out there. And the irony of all that, and when I bring up the dinner with Norma McCorvey, is she tried to get the case overturned. She was the person, and when she became a Christian, she petitioned the court to have her case overturned, and they refused. And she said that the case was about me. I want a different outcome now. And they wouldn't even lift her.
Wow. Thanks. Thank you. We check out, and I can hear I can feel the environment, our dialogue right now. That when there is a listening, when there is a flow of trying to understand from each side, I can see the good flow, and I like to follow up with a question when our conversation get heated or emotional, and of course, when everything connected, it's like electricity, something like a current flowing. But if there is disconnect, nothing is happening. So emotion is important, and people hear you, people respect you when everyone just pause and listen. So my question next is, when conversation get heated and emotional, what help you stay calm and respectful?
Well, I think, obviously the emotional aspect of it depends on who you're talking to and what's being said. Language, right? Posturing, tone, you know, that's all part of it. But not everybody's going to be trained having a, professional or calm, educated debate, right? Because if you're just talking, if you're just out, like right now, we are in a forum. We understand it's a, give take. It's, and there's no animosity here, obviously. But if you're like, say, if you're having a debate like this, just, out in public, right? There's no, it's not a forum, and so people are going to say what they're going to say, and when people insult, it's because they don't have anything to say. They just want to speak louder, they want to be more aggressive so that you can hear their side without maybe offering facts or offering information. So you can't engage in those types of conversations, right? Because it's a lose-lose situation, because the other party's just going to keep getting louder and louder without actually giving any insight, any information, any education, to the topic at hand. And that, so in that situation, I don't think any advice is going to, it's not going to work. It only works in this type of forum where, there's understanding, respect, and we know that it's, where I'm going to talk, you're going to talk, and we're coming into this not personal. That helps. Emotional, but obviously we've all been in arguments, and emotions do rise. I think for me, because I've been to school, I've been in debate classes, speech classes, obviously I know how to hold my own, and I know to come in with information. I know to come in with, a sense of listen, talk. But I feel like, but even in the professional level, though, emotions are always going to get the best of you. And I don't think there's any good advice for it, because look at the presidential debates, where you would think that there would be a proper decorum, and there's none there, as of recent. And it depends on the person, but I don't think that there's any, when emotions are involved, when the topic is personal, I don't think that there's any anything that you can say to help have a listen and talk situation. I don't know. I don't think that it doesn't work.
Thanks, Bong. Thank you. I don't know if my question this clearly would be still stated. Looking at the issues of abortion, it looks like there is an intentions wanting to prevent the future consequences or to take responsibility of the past event. Do you think the current administration policy will make any difference in terms of positive ways down the road in terms of this?
Like, you mean, do you think that this administration is going to change their stance on the abortion?
Again,
is that what you're asking?
If okay, let's do this.
Not gonna do it. So I said to myself, okay, so if there was something wrong with my baby, am I gonna get rid of it? No. So I'm not gonna even bother, right? And a lot of women think that way. So I feel like this administration is not going to change because it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with policies or anything. I think it's just because they do not believe in ending a life at any stage, and life begins, everybody varies and when life begins, and that's fine. Obviously, I think I don't think the administration is going to change its stance on it, because for them it's their values, right? It's their religious values.
Brett, I know I'm going to have you respond to this, but from my, let's say I'm the junior, both of you are more seniors on understanding the roles of the government, the role of citizens. We are the people, we pay tax to the government, correct? Am I correct? Legally speaking, we are supposed to pay tax to our government.
Some people pay taxes.
Yes, and we do pay tax here too. Yeah, well. And then what do we do with the tax? Is the role of the government, and the government will allocate the money. Bong, if you want to argue about the money, but of course it's all about management. And who take care of that? It's not the people. It's the government who are the government. It's the people that are voted by the people, right? And of course, in politics, people want to take away power and blah, 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 blah. And now we are coming to the disagreement and everything very political controversy, about we want to use this for this. No, we don't want. And then now what is happening right now, the shutdown. And why is it becoming shutdown? Because some agree on certain things, some disagree. Say, hey, why do you pay it? Nope, I don't want it. So to me, I call it a mismanagement thing, or management it correctly, or it's a political interest that stops something. So whatever is happening, it's politics, and I'm poisoned by politics. So I don't know what is I want. Brett, you can say something.
Okay, there's a lot there. I would be willing to bet you that Donald Trump doesn't touch abortion with a 10-foot pole, because he was pro-choice much younger in his career. He had support from religious conservatives because everyone was mean to them, and they said they wanted the Supreme Court. And he appointed people to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturned the law. He kept his promise, so he's not going to touch it ever again. He's just going to stay away from it. It's not a top 10 issue for him. He always said the Supreme Court shouldn't be involved. It should be up to the states. And what happened was it did go back to the states, and the people who were pro-life didn't do a very good job of convincing people to not have abortion, and several states passed laws making it part of their state, much worse than what the Supreme Court did. And so some of those laws do go up to full term. So the law is different now than it used to be. But the pro-life people who were arguing didn't persuade the other voters with them. And so that's on them. You didn't convince people. And so they weren't prepared to persuade people, which in a democracy, you have to persuade people that the course of action is right. So Trump will never touch it again. He has no interest in getting involved. He's going to say, well, that's done. I'm doing something else.
It's not my problem. Yeah.
Right. So he's worried about the $37 trillion in debt that we have. He's very worried and had a lot of support from people of all ethnic groups, actually.
I don't really understand about debt in government, guys. But maybe we can do that later. I mean, I can find out about government debts, but okay, let's move on. It's been like more than 45 minutes. I don't want our podcast to stay that long because our audience, they may have some other things, So Brad, if you can just kind of speed up a bit on that, and then we'll come to the last question, and then we'll come to the end.
So, remember, the United States Constitution is based on limited government. And so in our Constitution, there's nothing about healthcare. There's nothing about education. It's only supposed to be national defense and like foreign relations. But we have so much else happening in the federal government now that's not in the Constitution. And so that's like trillions of dollars. Our interest on our debt is bigger than our military budget now. Wow. Yeah. And so they're just...
Is that the truth? Is that the truth?
That's true. Yeah, you can look it up. It's bigger now.
Do you know what Brad say? Is he's lying, or is it, do you think...
No. No. I'm just saying I have not done the research on whether the military's debt and the government's debt, the country's debt. I have not.
Where did you get that information? I mean, I'm trying to...
Oh, it's part of it was that for a long time, interest rates were really low, so they could borrow at almost 0%, but interest rates have gone back up. So that has like doubled the amount that we have to pay for interest.
Yes.
But we could look it up and find resources, but it's public. It's public. You can go look it up and the different parts of the federal budget. And so...
on debt, interest, and defense.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Something. Whew. We only touched one topic, everyone. Just
things, obviously because it's like there's so many different levels.
Yeah.
Never black and white. It's not a quick answer.
Yeah. I can, if I can tell what the hot issues, you can name many, but then I can name political issues right now is happening in the state. It's like abortion, immigration, gun control, what else? The management of funding, healthcare, all of that. There's many things, and some people even lost their life of talking about of those issues. we are not here to solve all of
immigration.
those problems. As
Mhm.
Christian, we can pray for peace, and but personally, I would say it's important what you allows in the heart, in your heart, especially each of you. I live from another country, not in the U.S., but I understand what the emotion of human being. What it means to us as a family. We have kids to feed, and then when policy makers making laws or making any policy that affects, I don't know what you call it, rice bank. I call rice bank. If something related to the rice bank, for example, I don't care what you do, I don't care what you make, but tomorrow if I don't have rice for my children, that is a problem.
Mhm.
And I just want to stay emotional, and I just want to stay respectful to what is happening. And you have people who can discuss, debate, and then find more solution. And of course, you cannot please everyone, but at least we all have different problem to solve, right? And so, ladies and
Mhm.
gentlemen, and I guess we are coming almost an hour, and I hope you've been enjoying
Mhm.
our conversation, and we're trying to stay respects and care with opposite points of views. And the topic is, what is the topic, everyone? Help me.
So
Um,
talking about abortion.
Seeking truth together, engaging opposite points of view with cares and respect. And Brad Mayers and Bong Prakansos from the state giving us, meaningful and great dialogue. And yeah, unless you have any things you really said, I want to, give this, I will give you the last questions. Anything you're wanting to
I
add?
statement about people losing their lives. I just want to just kind of throw out there, it's people are not losing their lives because of the opposition of thought. I think you have mental health issues, you have other things that, because I don't like it when people are like, oh, so and so got killed because they didn't like what he said. I don't think it was that at all. I think that the person who committed these atrocities, there's other issues with that person, right? The assassination of anybody, it's the shooter. And every time that they have arrested or found these shooters, it's never, oh, I didn't like what he was saying. It's never about that. And I just want to make sure that that goes out there, that people are not being killed for what they're saying. People are being killed because the person who had the gun just decided that they wanted to do it. I don't know if it's for fame, for infamy, for, like, to be infamous, or to prove a point that they could. I don't know, but it's never because they opposed their their words, right? Like, or their thoughts. I just want to put that out there. It
Okay.
just never seems the case. It's
So it's
never
not
just
it's not what the one the assassinate one is not the one that is saying. It's the one who hear what he's saying. Am I correct? What you're saying?
no. I'm
mm,
just that it's not because, okay, like elephant in the room, Charlie Kirk, right? He wasn't killed because the
What?
person who killed didn't like what he said. It's always about something
mm,
else. And then people right away, the first thing they want to say is, oh, it's the opposite. It's the people who don't agree with him. No, nobody cares enough to, like, people who don't agree with somebody. It's not normal. People don't just wake up, oh, I don't like what he says, I'm gonna go kill him. Obviously, if they do feel that way, they're obviously not right in the head. And that's all I'm just trying to say. It's not normal. People are not
Hmm.
killing people because they disagree. I just want to put that out there.
Okay.
so this may be an area where there's a difference of perspective. Um, Part of it comes from I've had a chance to work with refugee groups in different places, and um, America's very heavily armed, and so you don't see the kind of ethnic groups getting into big fights because both groups are armed, and so you don't have, like, Rwanda was machetes, right? Okay, if both sides in Rwanda had guns, may not have seen that, and that's kind of America has a lot of space too, so people can move apart and not live next to each other if they disagree. But a lot of the types of genocides you've seen in other countries couldn't happen in the U.S. because people have too many guns, and if you started it, then everybody gets their guns out, and everybody's going to die. And we had a civil war; it was really, really bad because everybody had guns, and so we don't want to do that again. Um, and so that's part of what makes the American dynamic different. And we have those guns because we rebelled against the United Kingdom. Because the United Kingdom, the U.S. Revolution started when the United Kingdom tried to take people's guns. That was what was the battles of Lexington and Concord. So it's a unique part of our culture. Some don't feel it's biblical, but the Book of Esther has an example that you could think about too. In that, it's like the end of the Book of Esther is on this. When you work with refugees, when there's ideologically based, some refugees like the Yazidi, they're kind of pacifists, so they weren't prepared to fight back at all. So when Daesh came in, they just had to flee or be killed. They didn't have the ability to stand up to them. And they all fled to Kurdistan, where that's also Muslim, but it's a different ethnic group, right? And the Kurdish people, they do fight. And so, but the Kurdish people made the decision, we're going to be a safe place for everybody. And so when I went to Kurdistan, it was very interesting because they took us down to the Tigris River and they said, oh yeah, Daesh came up to the river on the other side and the Peshmerga came down on the Kurdistan side, and they never tried to cross the river because they knew the Kurds are going to fight. And so all the Yazidi who were pacifists fled into the Kurdish areas, and they moved their whole village, and they took they even took. What was interesting about that is these are tent cities, but they piled everybody in the Hilux, and so they brought even their family members who were very ill, who couldn't walk and things, and they brought them with them, and so that was remarkable. But the Yazidi don't fight. But everywhere we went, there was Peshmerga with their AK-47s, and they'll fight. In Lebanon, same thing. The Druze will fight, and they're all armed. Lebanon's like Texas, right? Everybody's armed. And so, which is very interesting for Californians when they go, because they're like, everybody has guns. And it's like, yeah, it's like Texas. So, but there are ideologically driven conflicts. In the U.S., I think anyone who's thinking logically is like, oh, we don't want to start that because it's going to get out of control. And so the few people who do it, they're not deterred by that. There's a few. I would argue that some of those people are ideologically driven. I think it'll come out in trials. But because most people, even people who are armed, are like, oh, we don't want to start a civil war. And so they're not going to go do it. And so, like after Charlie Kirk's murder, one of the things that happened was no stores boarded up their windows. Mm-hmm. Nobody was worried about the people on the right rioting or anything else. That's a very interesting cultural phenomenon. It's like, why didn't they think people would go do that? And so, but you didn't see it anywhere. Another example closer to home for us was the rooftop Koreans, where in 1991 riots, the rooftop Koreans got their guns, and Korea has mandatory service in the army, right?
Yeah.
So they moved to the United States. They all knew how to use guns. They all bought guns. They went up on the roof and they shot at anyone trying to burn down their stores.
Yeah.
So in the 2020 riots in LA, nobody went to Koreatown.
Right.
Because they knew the Koreans are going to shoot back.
Right.
But also, nobody came out to the suburbs.
Yeah.
They did have a thing once. There was a thing in Victorville, actually. It was kind of interesting. I watched it played on social media where they went to the Best Buy in Victorville, and the local Jeep Club came to defend the Best Buy. And then those deputy sheriffs came and they sent everybody home, but nothing happened.
Yeah.
But Victorville's a little bit different place, but the Jeep Club says we're not letting it happen in our community.
Yeah.
And everybody assumes that people with Jeeps have guns. And so, but in California, you can't show them.
Yeah.
And so, but it's an interesting dynamic when I go to places where there's refugees and they're in countries where they're not allowed to own anything. They don't have any firearms. They can't defend themselves, so they just fled. And so you end up with 1 million people in Lebanon as refugees, 1 million people in Jordan from refugees. And so that was only option. They can't fight. So in those kind of countries, a small number of people can do a lot of damage to a community. Which the U.S. is built to prevent that. The government structured to prevent tyranny, more or less. It's not designed to be efficient at all. It's designed to slow everything down. It's on purpose. And then everybody has guns too, so that it's a really bad idea to go into somebody else's community and mess with them. And so
Yep.
people stay in their own communities and yell at each other.
Yep. Bong Prakan and Brad, thank you for sharing. And to me, regarding the gun control topic, the gun topic, and I am aware that in the U.S., you have states that you don't want guns, and there are states that they want guns. Well, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not really from a society where I can access gun, all right, and it's internal politics, and we may have some different beliefs about using guns. Some say to stop the future problem is stop people from using guns, and there are people who also believe that problem is not from having access to gun, it's more from the something inside of us, and this is what I touched earlier regarding taking everything too personal, taking things that coming inside us, and then it trigger action. Of course, we cannot just say somebody without receiving anything into the mind or heart and then trigger action. There must be something that coming into, I call it the seed of hate or the seed of love. So if we are scattering the seed of hate, wars can happen, even it's not physical war, but the war inside us. It can stay centuries. I don't have to raise up the current event about the war, revenge, the hate that inside of us. And it never goes away until something transforming us from the... This is what our conversation right now trying to, scatter of understanding, and at least people can open heart to understand that we are not wanting war. We are not wanting hatred. We are not wanting revenge. How can we live together? How can we understand each other? Let's just anchor love. Let us center love and everything in here, rather than just accepting everything. So I think I want to throw last questions, and then coming to the end, guys. I understand that disagreeing sometimes costs us. It can cost us things. I still believe that disagreement can lead to life lost. It can be if people can take very deep personal issue, disagreement. Culturally speaking, some disagreement is very disrespectful. And if you are not careful about disagreeing, if I'm younger than you, culturally speaking, and I disagree with you, if I'm not careful, it's dangerous for me. And you can disagree to politicians, you can disagree to your parent, you can disagree to many people around you, but just so you know, disagreement sometimes can lead to something dangerous. I'm not saying disagreement is a hate. My theory, well, not theory, but my opinion that disagreement is not a hate. A pastor was saying that disagreement can be a love. For example, Bong Prakan, you made disagreement with your daughter who making decision unwisely, right? So you disagree with your daughter, So is it hate? Are you hating your daughter? No, you're loving your daughter, and that's why you disagree with her. So I wanted to ask you something regarding this. What is that like? What is it something that you want to encourage our next generation, the next generation regarding disagreement, regarding differences? If, for example, how do we talk over differences with respect and care? And is anything that help us to stay calm? Is there something that help us to stay respectful? Is anything that you want to encourage our young people, especially the youth right now, whether they are Cambodians or they are from other country, want to listen to us from opposite point of view. And right now you are implementing it beautifully, and I love that. And thank you for respecting that. Anything that you want to encourage us, rather than, but at least, we're showing something.
I say what to start is maybe do some research on what it is that is bothering you or what you're disagreeing with, right? I think that the knowledge of what's going on, it doesn't matter what you say, right? Like, so say we have this issue with I don't know, gun control, right? If I, because say you're like for gun and say I'm against guns, right? Now you could say whatever you want, I could say whatever I want, and I think that it's important to maybe look up the laws, look up the Constitution, and kind of like settle your own mind, right? Like, okay, um if I'm against it and you're for it, right? Maybe I'm trying to say, okay, I'm trying to put it in a way where, okay, say you, okay, so I'm saying, like, okay, for you, right, like you say, you know, I don't want you to take away my rights to own a gun, you know, and things like that, right? And I'm just like, no, 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 you know, we need to get rid of it, we need to get rid of it, let's just say that, right? But if you know and understand the law that they're not going to get rid of it, you wouldn't be so angry, right? Because a lot of the times I think people are not doing their research, and they're just fighting because I don't know, because they don't know, and they're just going based off what they think they know. Like the Second Amendment, nobody in the United States is saying get rid of all guns, because you know what the Democrats are asking for is maybe reform, like to not make those machine automatic guns that shoot spray out like 1,000 bullets at once. You know,
You're talking
because
about the Glock switch,
Mm.
for
yeah,
example.
yeah, and nobody, you know, nobody's saying it, because I think that if you do get rid of, and I'm not even like a gun pro or against, but I think that if you get rid of guns, we're going to come into some trouble, like what you were saying, Brad. Like we need, like I think people, I mean, I think what has been keeping things kind of status quo is that, you know, that, you know, people have guns, right? And I think that having guns is good. You need to protect yourself. You need to be able to, because, you know, but I think that if you do the homework, do the research, and see what they can and cannot do, then that's going to alleviate some of the frustration and anger, right? Because, you know, now you can say, you know what, Prakan, you can say whatever you want, because I know they're never going to take away guns, right? And if you
Mm-hmm.
understand that, it doesn't matter what I say, it's going to keep you calm. Like, just like for me, like, you know, I know that I'll be okay. You know, you're going to be okay, because that's not really going to happen. And I think the problem with people getting angry is because they don't know they don't know their laws, and they don't know their rights, right? And I
Mm.
think that when people do their homework and understand what it is that is really going to happen, I think then it'll take away Olivia. So what I say to the new generation is just do your homework, you
Mm.
know, don't listen to each other's little, you know, what are they called, sound bites and, you know, headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Just look it up, just look
Mm-hmm.
it up.
Thank you, Bon. Thank you
So,
so much, Brad.
so I would agree that doing the understanding the history and tradition is very important. Um, in the U.S., we didn't have gun control until after the Civil War, when they wanted to make sure blacks couldn't get guns, and that's in the Dred Scott decision. They actually mention if we let them become citizens, then they could own firearms. And so, even in California, the 1968 Gun Control Act was because Black Americans carried their guns into the legislature building, which was legal at the time. And that was Reagan. And they passed the Gun Control Act right after that to start passing gun control laws. So, you know, my perspective in the history is all gun control legislation comes from racist motives. And you can go look up the laws so you can prove it. And there's
Mm-hmm.
Supreme Court cases like Cruikshank versus the United States and things where, you know, basically ever since the Civil War, Republicans have been trying to arm blacks to defend themselves. And then there was a massacre in it was in Louisiana, I think, yeah, because you know basically the people went after the people who got armed, and that was 1876. They prosecuted them, and then the Supreme Court said, nope, you can't prosecute them. The people who killed the other people. And that was the Cruikshank decision, which is the legal basis for all gun control laws for like 150 years. And so this is why that legal tradition is so important. As you go back and look that, oh my gosh, this has really been going on a very long time. And so that was 1876, so 150 years ago. Um, and so imagine that, saying that you weren't allowed to prosecute people who'd murdered people. That was the Supreme Court decision in Cruikshank.
You know, that recent thing with the, you remember when the riots, I want to say, is it the George Floyd thing where I could, so much has happened, where that
Mm-hmm.
one kid, I'm gonna say kid because I think he's 18, 19. There was a protest, he carried a
Oh
gun.
yeah, that was in Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Is it okay? Where they did
Yeah.
him because I think
Well, they
they
prosecuted him, but the jury found him not guilty.
Right, because it was self-defense, or
Yeah, because the
I
other
think,
people attacked him first
right,
on
and then
the video.
license to carry, is that what his thing was too?
No, it was a long gun, so it was a rifle. But
Okay.
Wisconsin, see, what's interesting about that case is there's some articles about a black man who brought his 16-year-old daughter, and they both had rifles, and they were there too, defending a restaurant. But nobody messed with them, and so now I'm not saying he should have been there. I'm not saying he made good choices, but the jury decided that no, it was self-defense. And so, and the other guy brought his daughter, brought a 16-year-old daughter, and there's pictures of them and with their rifles, and they were in the same city at the same time defending another business. And that culture is not like California culture, right?
Okay.
California, you can't do that, but
Yeah.
Wisconsin, you could.
Yeah.
So, and so things like that, those are critical incidents that affect people's perceptions of it. Um, and those critical incidents often turn into legislation, just like when they went into the legislature office, everyone's like, and so they passed a law saying you couldn't do that anymore. um, but it keeps changing. So like right now in the United States, there are 29 states where you can carry a handgun concealed without a permit, and
Out of permit.
and,
Yeah.
and that's
Trump.
people of all races.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even though some of those were like countries in the South and everything, it's like the whole South now, they're all like, no, we're okay with you carrying now.
Yeah.
And so even though they had racist gun control laws 100 years ago, now they're like, nope, everybody can. And
It's like,
it's such a difference.
Yep.
yeah,
Okay. Yep.
a lot of pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's still it
Yep.
still means people. There's definitely challenges, and it's still pretty wild to me that it's changed that much. But it's a difference in you can look over the 100-year period and see how differently people's attitudes have changed.
Yep.
And and I'll give you another direct example. In my family, my dad's generation, they took their rifles to school to do rifle club after class, and that was normal.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And all sorts of high schools had rifle club. It was during the Vietnam War, so they wanted kids to know how to use their rifles, and they all did rifle club. So you were supposed to bring your guns to school.
Okay.
Wow. Oh,
Now, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
we're in a different. So if you think about it that way, something else has changed in the world. Now everybody, oh, that's terrible.
Okay.
But something else has changed in the world. It's not that people owned
well,
guns,
right. And
but
then,
there's other things. And you could, I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of drugs that
yeah,
psychopharmaceuticals people use. There's video games, movies. A lot of stuff is different than 50 years ago.
and just to add though, I think gun control became prevalent because of the school shootings. Because before that, nobody said anything about wanting gun control. It was only after the school shootings that were happening over like multiple times, and I think
Mhm.
that was the issue, because it was children killing children. But before that, nobody really said anything about wanting you know amendments or change or anything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nobody talked about gun control.
And there's some history before the current thing. The current thing is school shootings. Before that, it was Saturday night specials, where if you go back and look, it was 40 years ago or so, but they tried to ban Saturday night specials, which were cheap, small, concealable handguns.
Oh,
You can look up Saturday night special as the term, and you'll see a lot of policy discussion about it 50 years ago, versus now where it's constitutional carry, where everybody can carry a gun. And it's just in 50 years, it's gone from one end completely to the other. And so, but that's how much society has changed. So it's remarkable, and I think we're the only country in the world like this. Everybody else thinks we're crazy.
yeah,
Okay.
from state to state, so
You know,
Okay.
and and so, but it's a really interesting cultural discussion, just like enforcement of property laws, right? Some missionaries we know I'll just say in Africa, they were in town one day, and a guy was like on a motorbike and stole someone's phone, but they caught him. And in front of the missionaries, the crowd beat him to death right there because he was stealing phones. and they just so tired of it, so tired of the police doing nothing, that they just took matters into their own hands.
Okay.
And so, there's a whole theory of government that if you're not protecting people's property, regular people's property like us, then the society is going to get more violent,
Yep.
because now
Yep.
the people who are strong enough to defend, they're going to defend their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so you prevent the violence if the government protects everybody's property. And so, but if you're both unarmed and the government won't protect your property, then some warlord will just take your stuff and you'll be left destitute and poor.
Mm. Okay.
Imagine if they just stole your bike, or they stole everything in your apartment.
Yep.
I mean, what are you going to do if you say the government says, sorry, we only support the rich guy over here?
Chaos.
That's how
Yeah.
societies collapse.
All right. Well, thanks, Brad, for your comments on this. As I can intake from Bong Prakan and you is more of researching the past events and the reality in the past. And before we come into any judgment or making any wrong assumption or something, it's good to do researching. And that's what I can intake from one of our speakers. And as everyone can see that this is the truth seeking, it doesn't have to divide us, and we understand that we all have different beliefs and opinions and, from each side, but we can still listen, we can still talk, we can still walk together with understanding, cares, and respect. And to our listeners, and you may practice courage and kindness in every conversations that we can have, and yeah, stay respectful even when we come into opposite points of views, and of course, embracing love and scattering the seeds of love, and that's the most important thing in our heart. And stay guarding from receiving lots of political seeds of hate and anything that is not really good for us. And my words is really wanted to ensure that people around us can still in relationship, not disconnect relationship just because what you believe and what you have, and just making sure that everything do it in the anchor of love. All right, so God bless. And from Vatana, the host of the program, and thank you so much, and I really hoping that everyone can enjoy and benefit from our dialogue.